Greetings. Shop Talk Podcast. Greetings. I'm Norma Jo Thomas, and I am here with my favorite barber, Jamel Thomas, and we are at the historic Joe's Barbershop, right here in the historic African American community of Acres Homes. Joe's Barbershop is the home of Shop Talk. The Shop Talk podcast celebrates the old school Black Barbershop, where there were conversations about just about everything relevant to the Black community. Tune in to Shop Talk. Greetings, and welcome to the Shop Talk Podcast. We're right here in Joe's Barbershop in the historic community of Acres Homes in Houston, Texas, better known as the Fofo. And I'm real excited, y'all, this time because I'm actually introducing my co-host, Miss Angela Faye CeZar. You might hear me call her Mayasa, and you might actually hear her call me Rawia. Information for another story. But I'm excited that Mayasa is here, and I'm going to just let her introduce herself.
All right. Well, like Rawia said, my name is Angela, also Mayasa, and I am this fantastic person that believes in financial literacy. But I'm also a grandmother and a godmother and a mother. So I live my life sharing what I have and building what I want and helping others build what they want. I'm really excited to be here because I know what we're going to be doing is going to be fantastic. I have been a police officer. I've been in corporate America in compliance. I have been in the financial industry since 2009. So I got a lot of travels behind me that helps me lead to the roads of where I'm trying to take other people to currently. So again, I'm just excited to be here and to share in this information about building community.
All right, good. So in addition to kind of sitting in with me with other guests and talking about other topics, you'll be hosting your own topics. We have a couple of episodes where you're going to be talking about Black Money Matters, and you're going to be talking about how we spend our money and money in the Black community, talking about some of the things that we have been doing historically, and we do them because we don't know any better. It's just what we've taught or what we've seen other people do. And then just how we're learning and we're growing as a community and what we need to do with that information. So good for you. I'm looking forward to what you're going to be bringing to the table. But look, so what I want to do today is I want to wrap up our introduction to Shop Talk. This is a 3-episode series called A Shave, A Cut, and Then What? So episode 1, we basically spent time just celebrating the old school Black barbershop, what it meant to the community, what the feeling of the barbershop was like, the activity in and out and around the barbershop. And then we started to talk about how can we bring this back as an institution in our community. But of course, we have to look at community,
right?
Where it's going, and so that's going to be a topic we're going to dive into next time. So we don't really have to get too deep into that. We did raise the question in episode 2, I think it was. We did raise the question of, how do we transcend geographical boundaries of community?
Yeah.
And so, like I said, we chatted about that a little bit, but we're going to go deeper into it in the next episode. What I want to know first from you is, what do you think about this whole idea of a shop talk?
Well, first of all, the fact that we can bring people together and talk in itself is a big damn deal, because sometimes we have a tendency to think that life gets so busy that we don't have the time. I wish I could. I want to. Oh, I was going to do that, but then this happened. So to be able to have a platform, a place where people can engage in it on their commute, or where they can sit down when they have those few minutes and just listen. That's their time to listen to something that they want to hear. Is just, it's wonderful, right? Mm-hmm. And so this idea of shop talk is giving that language back to people that maybe previously experienced it, or people who want to have something that they've heard shared that happened back in their day. Communication is always a good thing. that helps us grow, that helps us build, that helps us rebuild, that helps us establish, that gives us our foundation. It gives us everything that we need. Communication is key and essential to everything.
Now, I know we talked a little bit about, well, not a little bit, we talked a lot of it about this in our first episode with some barbershop guests that I had on. But I want to just kind of backtrack just for a second.
Absolutely.
And what is your memory of, or do you have any memories of the old school Black Barbershop?
Well, my experience with the old school Black Barbershop was absolutely right here in the 4-4 at Joe's Barbershop, and with Mr. Jo Thomas being my barber. So I would come in here when I was wanting a cut or whatever from Mr. Thomas, and I was sitting in here having the experience, you know. They would have the conversations, they would laugh, they would cry, they would shake their head, they were in disbelief when things happened, but the conversation was happening and it was being shared with everyone in there. And what I thought the most about it was that they were still being brothers and they were being respectful and they were still doing their things. The women in the beauty shop would pass through or going in or out of the beauty shop, and they would get engaged in the conversation too. When they'd enter in, they were always acknowledged as I was. And, you know, it was just a place where there was that Black respectful experience. It didn't matter. You got to say, and if there was a disagreement, it wasn't like, okay, you know, I'm going to pull out a knife, I'm going to pull out a gun. It was just a disagreement, and people talked about, you know, hey, that's his opinion. You know, what you going to do?
Disagree.
You can't stop that person from believing that or what they think, you know. That's just the way it is. So I had a fantastic experience in this barbershop. That would have been my first. Well, that's not true. When I was at Southern University, I went into the barbershop. It was the first time I got my hair cut. And at that particular point in time, it was really that thing where, you know, they were just kind of getting people in and out. And we were talking about stuff on campus because it was campus life and it was a campus barbershop. But being here was a real live community experience. People from all walks of life, all professions, you know, they were coming in here from different areas of town, you know, different belief systems. It was all in here. So it wasn't just Acres Homes folks. It was everybody.
I like to say that it was a safe space because as a kid growing up in this barbershop, I heard a lot of conversations. And as I got older, I came to understand that those were conversations that couldn't necessarily have been had outside of the community, you know, and so we had in our communities, you know, we had the church, we had the school, we had the barbershop, we had the beauty shop, we had those safe spaces. And I just feel like what we need to do to talk about some of the things that we've got to talk about so that we remain a people and restore ourselves as a people is opportunities for that dialogue. Opportunities for us to agree to disagree, for you to say whatever it is you say, but I'm not saying I'm going to take your black card from you, but for us to come to an understanding and an awareness of where we each might be on our journey in life, you know? And there's so much that's happening in our community right now that if we don't have conversation, then those things that are being thrown out on social media, those are the things that get heard. You know, what do they say? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so those are the things that begin to shape and mold the mindset and the behaviors and the attitude of the next generation. Then who will we be? Who are we going to become? You know, what will kids say about us, you know, 100 years from now? You know, there's always this thing that I see. The kid goes into the museum and they see a replica of the Black experience, or they see a replica of the Black community. And then the kid turns and asks an adult, oh, what happened to these people? You know, that I cannot remember where I first saw that, but that has stuck with me for a very, very long time. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, I took out on this mission to restore the Black Barbershop conversation, not necessarily the brick and mortar,
right?
Yeah, but that essence of it, what it meant and what it did and what it brings to us. Yeah.
Exactly, and that is the key thing that when you're talking about the community was built around the conversation. So, like being a country girl, and understanding that life in the country, when we finished doing everything we did, we had conversation happening around. There was conversation happening around everything. If I was shelling corn or peas and stuff with my grandma, there was conversation happening around that. I was learning something. Yeah. If I was cutting okra with her or helping her can something, there was conversation around that. There was no dead time. We were talking. She was sharing past, and she was telling me what my responsibility was going into the future, because she would always say that every generation must do better than the generation they came from. And so everything, trips, with family, there was always conversation. And I know with my grandchildren, when we would take trips, they would want to watch a movie or something like that. And that was okay. Right. That was convenient. I get it. Times change. But I brought the conversation to what we were watching. What are we watching on here? But I sometimes when we go out to eat, I see families sitting there at the table. The parents have their devices out. The kids have their devices out. They're just eating. So it's that lack of communication that is missing, because like you said, the barbershop for you, because of what your dad stood for and who he was as a man, that was that place. It created that environment. And a lot of people felt safe here. People from the outside that needed things, I saw them come into this community, and I saw him give and give and give without asking or questioning or anything. It was just, you took care of your neighbor. I can go over here to Mr. Joe. But there were some other things that I learned about Mr. Jo Thomas that were fantastic that I'm going to be getting into as we continue to talk. To have a career as a barber way back when, in the late 60s, early 70s, and be a six-figure earner. That's huge, and to even travel to the point in his life where he became a millionaire. Those things are magnificent. But what he held in this shop, in this barber and beauty shop, was more than, like you say, the brick and mortar, which is what you're doing with this thing. You're taking it beyond the thing. We can't get stuck on Joe's Barbershop. We have to understand that it's the responsibility of us going out to build and keep our community strong, and to make sure that we come back into the realms of the power that we once held as Black people in our community. And I will go on to say that it's not just about Black people, but if we take Acres Homes, for instance, Acres Homes changed to a degree because our brown brothers and sisters are here with us now. And they have the same values that we have. Family, wanting to have something more and something better. And we have to learn how to engage and incorporate each other so we can build our community together, and we can all benefit from that without our community changing around us and us not having any ownership with it.
You know what? That reminds me of a conversation I had with a brother when I was teaching at MC Williams. He was our wraparound services specialist. And so we were talking about some things that we wanted to do on campus. And we had kind of like a similar mindset about things. So we set up a meeting, we sat down and we chatted. And I was telling him about how the community was responding to the influx of our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters. I said, and one of the things that I've been hearing a lot at our community meetings is about the fence line. I said, now, I made a comment because I was driving down a street one day and I was like, man, these fence lines are high. When did that happen? And I know one of them to the right is a company that's just been there forever and ever, but they just put up, another fence. And this is what this brother shared with me. He said, your Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters, they're coming from different places, different lifestyles, different backgrounds. And you can notice that there is a pattern as to where they're settling across the city. And he went into detail and shared that with him. It was very, very enlightening. But he said, with regard to your community, to Acres Homes, he said, the fences are not going up because they don't want to be a part of the community, because they don't feel like they belong. The fences are going up because it feels like home. He says, this is what we have at home. We've got tall fence lines at home. And I was like, well, darn, I know, I
never even thought about that aspect
how would I
of
have
it.
known that? But that was just something, an element of culture that he shared. And so we began to talk about the things that we have to do to unify,
Right.
to unify the changing of the residences in this particular community.
Had you not had that conversation, the talking, the communication with that gentleman, then how would you have known?
Right, right.
So communication is key. The whole concept about, shop talk and bringing the conversation back is we have to understand that we're not talking just about how the conversations happened in the barbershop, but what that conversation did for the community when they walked out of the barbershop.
Exactly.
And that is the key thing right there.
Conversations were about more than just the conversations themselves. They were about the impact. When people inside the barbershop took those conversations outside the barbershop, and there was an impact on the community. That's what it was all about. And that's why I am just so in love with our segment called Artistic Impact, because nothing touches us at our core. Nothing makes us think and feel like the arts. So this week, Artistic Impact is being brought to you by none other than yours truly. I just want to do like our brother Malcolm and have an off-the-cuff chat. Me and you and me. This is a little piece I call I See You. Brothers and sisters, yes, I see you, yes, I do. But sometimes you don't look familiar to me when I'm looking right at you. I even see your lips moving, fam, but I don't know what y'all trying to say. And sometimes I don't recognize you when you looking how you looking when you looking this way. I mean, is that who you are? Or is it all for likes and cred? When I see you personificating and impersonating Black folks walking dead. You wondering why you should care what I think, because I can think whatever I choose. It's just that sometimes what a person thinks could determine whether you win or lose. And it's just that I get tired of seeing my people play into itchy hands, ready to deny and delay. Sometimes folks see you, and for real, they mistake you for me. But I feel good when I look around and I see you looking like our destiny. Oh, I don't mind taking the heat for taking a personal stance, because it's personal for me that my people have a fighting chance. So right now, I'm just giving you a chance just to clear the air. Because if you're going to be judged in the world out there, strip them of their excuses not to be fair. Force them into the light from behind invisible hoods. Force them to do on Main Street what they used to doing in the backwoods. Don't set yourself up to be knocked out of the game. First learn the rules before you burn the rules. And you ain't got nobody to blame. Players don't compete against players. You beat the board, and that's how you get your name. Yes, brothers and sisters, you are free to project the image of your choosing. But there are just way too many times when your image is just a little confusing. Oh, I could launder the list for y'all because it goes from A to Z. But it all boils down to you taking all of us down when you sell our history, leading the march to cancel our culture, still searching for acceptability. You act like the wombs that watered those waiting souls which chose to cross into creation was just a glitch in godness, just a joke, maybe an aberration. You got too many kings and queens, inventors and creators, heavy hitters holding you up on their backs. For you to be round here looking and acting like you need to be cut some slack. Middle finger to the slack and to the ones who plotted this jack. Turn your eyes to the hills from whence cometh your help. The secret is in our bloodline. Oh, we can lead the world Wakanda forever when that bloodline is on the front line. Rise to a reality rooted in facts over fantasy. Rise like cream over the top of beguilement and blasphemy. Rise and walk like you came to Maya Angelou, like you got all wells pumping in your backyard too. So you still wondering why you should care what I think, because I can think whatever I choose. You still wonder why it matters to me, whether you win or lose. It's just that sometimes folks see you, and for real, they mistake you for me. But I like to look around and feel good when I see you, looking like our destiny. Oh, I don't mind taking the heat for speaking truth to power. It's real personal for me that we see ourselves as ourselves at our most definitive hour.
One of the things that we talked about in a previous episode was how do we replicate this? No. Not so much replicate, but how do we expand it? How do we take it beyond YouTube? How do we take it beyond, Apple and Spotify and the Buzzsprout, and their names are forgetting me right now, all of these different platforms that I've been researching that, I want to take advantage of so that more people can get involved on the conversation. And I've kind of made it my point to say at the end of each episode, it's like, take the conversation out, take it out. So, but let's talk about that concept of the shop as one of those platforms. How do you think we can get today's young barbers to see that what they have is gold? And it made me think about that song "Ghetto Gold" because it's really, I've been searching for that song. I can't believe I lost that song, but it was just an awesome piece of music. And but if I find it, that's going to become my theme music.
Right.
But anyway, so how do we impress upon them that, hey, you're sitting on a gold mine in terms of what you can do for others and what you can do for your people and what you can do for people like you? Going back to the community, the shared values, common goals, same desires for what we want for our families and for our future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That is like that's one of those questions that has so much territory with it.
True.
But I think, some people would say, well, social media is the key. That's how you're going to reach the masses. That's how you're going to get the message out. But I understand what you're saying and a lot of today's barbers and I don't know that they call them beauty shops anymore, but salons. I think that a lot of them are using social media.
Yeah.
And they're to capture their skills and what they do and all that. But I think that how we get them to realize that is to get them engaged in things that are of value. Let them know how essential their business, any business, is to the community. Because if your business is in a community, you should want that community to thrive, not only from a financial perspective, but you should want it to thrive from the sense of community, the way it looks. The way the people maneuver in that community. You don't want people walking through your door and taking everything out of your door or robbing you or walking in with a gun or anything. You want people to come in and get your product and have a good exchange so they'll come back, And so one of the keys to that is to pull the businesses in and say, hey, let's build this thing together. Let's let people know. So they have an event at the school, and this happens, especially during the during the beginning of the school year, barbers do these free cuts for kids.
They do.
But what about doing the holidays? What about doing Easter? What about these different things? And I don't know that they don't do them. I'm sure there are barbers out there that do. And I'm sure there's some barbers out there that the type of barber that your dad was, that if somebody needed a haircut and they couldn't afford it, they're going to give them that haircut again. We see things on social media where young people are going on the corners and they're cutting hair and giving shaves and to people that may be homeless and are transient of some sort. And they are, when they get that haircut and that fresh cut, they look like and feel like they're $1 million,
like new money.
So that is showing the value. But to let the barber, the owner, the business owner, has to plug into the community.
And it's so much like you to turn everything back to financial literacy or financial whatever the other word is that would go with that. But it makes sense, like this young lady says, make it make sense. Because just because I grew up in the 70s, and my daughter grew up in the 80s, and we were still that geographic community, you could, like I said, you could walk out the door and you see people who look like you. These are people who share your values, common goals. They want the same thing for their families, et cetera, and are willing to collaborate and cooperate and bring resources together. That's a route, because even as a business owner, you have to know the value in building and supporting community.
Right.
That's where your clientele, that's where your patrons are going to come from.
Absolutely.
So I see that. It's like, okay, you might not be beating the community drum like I'm beating the community drum. You might not be beating the black and the brown and the yellow and the red drums like I'm beating the drums of color,
Right.
But you beating the green drum. And your business, if it's going to survive, you need people either ordering online or walking in the door.
Right.
So it would behoove you to engage with your patrons and your clients on another level, whereas you're continuing to build that clientele. That person's going to go out and talk to 5 people who's going to talk to 5 more people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so I feel like what I'm hearing you say too is not just that community element, but hell, on a normal day of surviving business.
Right.
Yeah,
you have to. Any business owner in any community has to understand that they are the community. You've heard that old saying about it's the members of the church that make the church, not the brick and mortar that makes the church, right? And that's the same thing. Like right here, it's not the brick and mortar of the barbershop. It was just a building where people could come together and they could meet up. And so wherever you are, even if it's the corner store. So every business owes something to the community that they're in. And in doing that, I don't think that there is a business that a person goes through where there is not dialogue happening. So conversation is happening all the time.
True.
Even if you go to these hand wash car washes, you're going to get out and sit there and somebody else is waiting to get there. You're going to start talking.
Yeah.
So it's the value of the conversation that you have at that time. And that begins to build and shape the community. So if there are 3 cars in front of you, you don't mind waiting in line because while you're sitting there, you got a little drink going on, whether it's a soda or whatever, you having your drink, your water, whatever. And everybody's talking. Next thing you know, I've been looking for something to put my godson in. Oh, hey, we got this great program over here where they're playing soccer, and next thing you know, boom, connections are made.
Yeah.
And it's through the communication that the connections are made. And the businesses in the community are that spot where these conversations can happen. Yeah. So all business owners, barbers, whoever you are, you have to recognize the value that your business owes the community that you are housed in.
Made me think about something that I read, and actually it came from Reverend Clay, and he says, don't waste the Holy Spirit, don't waste Black folks' time. Black folks ain't got time to waste. And so I think that that's another element that's in my spirit that says, and I actually wrote the line in a play. It was like, when you get that many people together in one room, you need to say something to them. So the idea is now to not to tell people, okay, this is what you need to be talking about, or you should be thinking about this all the time. Okay, that's ridiculous. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee said a couple of weeks ago, she was speaking to a group of people, and she said, we are living in perilous times. There are changes occurring in our society and across the world that we are totally unaware of.
Absolutely.
But they're going to impact our daily lives, and it's going to happen more sooner than late. In addition to Congresswoman Jackson Lee, there was a gentleman who was talking about the impact of AI. Mm-hmm. And the news reporter said to him, because this was on a major network, and he said to him, so how should we be preparing? When is this going to happen? And the guy laughed. He said, you're already too late. It's already happening.
Right.
He said, the best thing you can do is make yourself aware of what's happening and how it's going to impact your life, know. So I'm saying all that to say is that those are the things also that fuel me, that are fueling this podcast, that are fueling the guests to share and talk about as many different things as we could come up with to talk about, is that we're living in times where, we got to laugh and we got to breathe and we got to have ourselves a good time, and we got to do those things that are fulfilling and meaningful to us, but we also have to talk about those things that are going to impact our future, our daily lives.
Exactly. And I think that any individual can make a choice if they just want to be that type of human being that's just walking through life, or if they want to be that type of human being that's engaged in life. We want to make sure that what's happening around us is the kind of things that we want to happen around us. If you are a male, you have a female in your life somewhere, even if you just deal with your mother. But there is a female, a niece, a cousin, somebody, and you want to know that wherever your niece, cousin, that female that's in your life, you want to know that they're going to be safe when they are out doing whatever. Community brings that into play.
Sure, yeah.
If you are a female and you have a male in your life, and you will have one somewhere, whatever it may be, father, son, nephew, whatever it may be, you want to make sure that that individual can go out and come back to you safely. And if your child is walking down the street and you see, and someone is bullying this kid, or some people are circling around this kid, you want to be that human being that can pull up and say, hey, what's going on here?
And know that there are some human beings out there who will do that.
Who will do that. And so I think that with that charge, comes from identifying with your community and your greater community.
Yes.
That I'm just talking about the sense of pride, the sense of belonging, the sense of being whatever. Because I can be in Acres Homes, or I can be in South Park, or wherever. If I see something going on, if I see somebody struggling or something, I'm going to render help or aid, as best I can, And yes, there's a risk in it.
Yeah.
But there's also a risk
in not.
And we have to understand and accept that.
Yeah.
And own it.
And that speaks to transcending geographic locations.
Right.
Yes, I live in Acres Homes. Yes, I live and die for the fofo. I love this community. I love everything that it has been. I love the person that I am, that was shaped by this community and the people in the schools and the churches and the activities and the programs and the projects, all that kind of stuff that fed into me, But I also am aware that as the world turns, my community is greater than 6 blocks.
Right.
My community is greater than the square footage of a particular area,
Yes.
bounded on the north, south, east, and west by particular
Yes.
streets.
Yes.
And so that's the challenge.
Yeah.
The charge and the challenge.
The charge and the challenge.
Charge and the challenge is that we recognize it and embrace it. Does it mean that I'm not going to support and promote and make things happen geographically? You bet I am. There are things that I'm committed to doing that are for that purpose as well. But it also means that I understand that there's an extension to that now.
There's an extension.
There are things that have happened in life that have changed,
Yeah, there's an extension. And understanding that if you can develop people who can have a sense of communityship, if young people, if you can instill in them the sense of communityship, when they leave and go away off to college or to the military or to whatever their new adult life may be taking them into, then they will know how to survive because they will be able to relate to communityship. They know who to look out for. I need to look out for people who think like me. I need to look out for people who have the same value system that I have. So I can connect with those people. And I'm just not falling for the okie doke that may be running around, because the truth is the truth. You got the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
And so
right,
you have
everywhere.
to make sure that your value system is what's separating you apart from that element you don't need to be tied to.
True.
True. So the communityship and understanding what that means and the values of that is what breaks all the barrier lines. It brings us together no matter where we are.
Yeah. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about a little bit deeper about community. And so I wanted to just kind of give an idea as to some of the topics, that I've planned for us to, kind of dive into.
Sure.
It's not written in stone, but
Right.
I think that, it covers a good array. And then again, this is just season 1. So I'm looking at, what are some things that we can do. I'm even looking forward to taking the podcast, making it mobile, so it's not just here in the shop. Maybe it's in the shop around the corner, or maybe it's in a shop across town. But I'm just looking at how to begin the conversation, continue the conversation, nurture it and develop it. And some of the things that we're going to be looking at, get to my list, when regentrification comes knocking.
And it's not going to be like bam, bam, bam. It's going to knock. And if we're not paying attention, it's going to happen right in front of us. And for so many of us, we're looking in our communities now and we're like, dang, I remember when that was, they had horses over there. Now it's a whole gated community. So it will happen.
Yeah.
It is happening.
Yeah, if it has not come to your community, it is coming soon.
It's on its way.
But I also think that, how the Christians say, and not that I have anything against Christians, but it's just a Christian statement, where they say the devil meant it for bad, God meant it for good, that sort of thing. There's a lot of greed, a lot of racism, a lot of isms that come into play with regentrification.
Right.
But I am a firm believer that you can take it and you can turn it so that it is now of an advantage to you. It is now of a benefit to you. And that's one of the things I want to add to that conversation too. So when regentrification comes knocking, growing up conscious, now when people say anything about being woke, it has been weaponized. It has been demonized and weaponized. There's some reasons it's been demonized, and there's some reasons it's been weaponized. And but there are those who grew up in conscious communities, in conscious households, and they grew up thinking a certain way, with a certain ideology, with certain values, And so I want to kind of delve into that topic as well.
Yes.
Then remember when they used to say religion is the opiate of the people?
Right.
Is it still the opiate of the people? Has it become the, what is something that knocks you out immediately? Has it become the mallet to the head of the people? What is happening with religion? And let me just say, I ain't trying to down and knock nobody's church. I'm not. But
Our
what
religion.
I want, or religion, thank you. Or religion, your mosque, your tabernacle, none of that. But what I do want us to do is, as we examine everything else that has an impact on the Black community, let's examine religion. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the indifferent.
Yeah.
You know, and then of course your heartbeat, Black money matters, and
Black money.
Things of that nature. Culture keeping. I've always considered myself, when I think it was Bishop Anika Sala out at the shrine who
Bishop.
introduced me to the concept of culture keeping. And I think there was a group that was called Culture Keepers. And but the question is now, why should we?
History is not anything, or how some of you may want to say her story or his story, however, but you get the point. The past cannot be eliminated from anything that we're doing. There is value in everything. It is how we utilize it and bring it with us that gives it the strongest value, you know? And so your culture, the culture keepers are the people who are making sure that this information is continuing to stay alive.
But you know what? It's not just the information. It's the essence of who we are, those things that sustained us, those things that helped us in our transitory periods, you know, who we were, you know, post-slavery, who we were turn of the century, who we were Renaissance period, who we were civil rights movement, Black Power movement, all those different transitory periods.
Yes.
You know, those things that sustained us and continued to help us move and develop and groove and become a people.
Right.
You know, coming out of a very, you know, horrific experience on American soil in this, and then having to rebuild ourselves. We, you know, some were able to pick up and relocate to another space, but the bulk of us, the masses of us, the majority of us, we remained right here. How did we survive this?
Yes.
How are we not all crazy? You know,
So
then
culture
there's
keepers are important.
culture keeping, and then cultural appropriation. Okay, yeah, we'll just keep moving.
Yeah.
Cultural appropriation. Yeah, and so those are kind of, I think that will kind of round out our season. So I'm looking forward to the weeks to come. We've presented to anybody who's listening, Shop Talk and what it's all about, why it's here, why we're doing what we want to do, what our mission, our goals, our objectives are. And so now we're going to jump into the water and swim.
We're going to swim because we're not going to drown.
Another piece that it's happening, but it's in development, and that's that artistic impact. I didn't want us to just sit here being talking heads, because it's about the conversation, it's about the shared thoughts and ideas. But as an artist, I also believe that nothing touches us at our deepest human level like the arts. And so I feel like just as the conversations in this barbershop impacted the community in exponential ways, the arts does the same thing.
There is a book called The Art of Communication, and that says it all. I was talking to a sister today. She was telling me about a movie I need to check out, and she said, in this movie, there were all kind of nuggets being dropped. You know, it's a movie, but they were using the movie to communicate certain messages to this particular community. And so she was telling me to make sure I check it out.
Yeah.
And if you think about rappers, singers, whatever you want to call them, spoken word, they do the same thing. The communication, the value, music, paintings, visual art. You know, you can go on and on about art. Art is essential.
You know what else I want our listeners and our viewers to do? I want them to feel.
Yes.
I want them to feel whatever it is we're talking about, whatever the topic is, I want them to feel. And I think that that's what the artistic impact section is going to do. It's going to give us an opportunity to feel our way through as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, Sister Mayasa, thank you for
You are
agreeing to be
welcome.
a co-host
Absolutely.
on this journey.
I am excited. I'm excited.
All right. Well, listen, this concludes our 3-part series. A shave and a cut, then what? What's the what? What's going to come next? What do we do next? So we have been talking about the influence and the impact and the inspiration of the traditional old school Black barbershop. And we're pulling from the soul of that. We're pulling from the essence of that. And we're bringing it into the present. And so we're hoping that you're going to come back and come back and come back, and you're going to bring people and bring people and bring people, but you're not going to let that conversation stop here. You're going to take it out to your favorite barbershop. You're going to take it out to your favorite beauty shop. You're going to take it out to your circle of influence.
Season 1 of Shop Talk Podcast is funded in part by a grant from the City of Houston through the Houston Arts Alliance.